Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. I feel like we got strong legs again. You know what? We were shaky for a while. Yo, starting with Black Lotus is not so bad. HXNT S3WQ, good stats. Not an amazing spacebar item, but you know, it's we don't want to be a choosing beggar here. You know, we don't want to be like, hey, I saw that you have your couch for sale for 50 bucks on Facebook Marketplace. Would it be possible that you would let it go for 0? And also, I don't have a truck, so can you deliver it for me? Oh, and also, I live on the 5th floor of a building with no elevator, but I'm not that strong. Would it be possible for you to lift the couch up? Oh, and also, my place is pretty dirty, so when you arrive, would it be possible for you to just sweep up a little bit? Oh, also, I don't own a vacuum. So if you could bring your own, that would be cool. But by the way, we don't have electricity. So if you could have a battery-powered vacuum, perhaps that would be fantastic. Oh, you get the idea. We could keep going ad nauseum. Which is a funny way of saying that I don't know where to take that joke. Anyway, it is what it is. I finally feel like I've gotten a little Isaac confidence back, you know? The confidence, it ebbs and flows based on performance, but it's, you know, I know inside I have the tools. It just, you know, getting a stretch of half-decent results, whether they're, you know, handed to me or pried from the jaws of mediocrity. It feels good either way. It helps, it's an affirmation. Let's put it that way. It's a Sunday. It's the final Sunday in July. Man, 2019 is just cruising by. I mean, you might not feel that way. I always think, like, you know, if you let, and this is kind of an ignorant attitude, because, you know, whenever people find themselves getting bummed out by the news, it's like a little too easy to just be like, just stop watching the news, forehead. But it's also, you know, I mean, what I'm about to say is kind of like, it's a little bit of a contentious issue. All I'll say is that it is good to be informed, but if you let it serve as a paralyzing agent, and, you know, the quality of your life is actually diminishing consistently, you know, month to month, might as well try, based on what you're seeing in the news, you need to have a healthy relationship with that, and that's... I didn't even see that rock, straight up. That's not to say that you shouldn't be, you know, watching the news, but I feel like some people, it becomes an obsession for them, you know? They see bad news, and then they think that, like, oh, well, the first thing they do when they gotta wake up, or when they wake up, is they gotta look at the news to see what kind of crazy stuff's happening today, and it just puts, like, a damper on you for the rest of the day, you know? I think I've come to a good, elegant way to describe this. I think that some people feel like if they read bad news and they feel bad, that's like acting in solidarity with the people who are victimized by the news in the first place. You know what I mean? They think that if they just ignore it, they're not doing their duty. And that's probably true to some extent. However, just reading it and feel bad and then not doing anything is also not productive. And moreover, it's worse than not productive. It's destructive potentially to your own mental state. Where was I going with this? Oh, I remember now. How fast the years are going. I mean, the years, it's also like you might not feel like they're going that fast, but I also think, you know, I joke about it. I'm not old, but, you know, as I get older, years go by really quickly. You know, I think it's like a percentage-based thing. When I was like 15, a year was more than 5% of my life, and, you know, I was like, man, I'm never gonna be 16. A month later, I'm 16, that took forever, you know? Now, like, I'm 30, and, you know, I look at things on a long tail, if that makes sense. You know, one year doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means something, obviously, but, you know, you could forget about a year. I'm pretty sure I remember nothing from 2016. And not because of, like, memory damage, but I'm like, if you ask me what happens in 2016, I'm like, 2016. 2016. You know what, that's... As you go take a look here, 2016 Game of the Year. Overwatch! Overwatch came out that year. I remember. Okay. Anyway, it's mostly just a bit. But, you know, if you ask me what happened in 2004, I'm like, oh my god. I have, like, an incredible identity associated with that. Now, the phases of your life, you know, or the phases of my life, I should say, they're much longer. You know, they're not, like, 3-month periods. They're, like, you know, they're years. Definitely would prefer the Emperor. But I feel like people, you know, if you watch social media, and to some extent what I'm about to say is ignorant again. It's possible that 2019, for many people, is a much worse year than 2016. It's possible that 2016 was bad, 2017 was horrible, 2018 was unbelievable, and then 2019 is truly, you know, the pits of hell itself. But I always remember whenever people are like, man, 2019 sucks. I remember the picture of, like, John Oliver, like, lighting or blowing up the sculpture of the year 2016 and being like, man, that was like 3 years ago now, and it grows more hilarious, perhaps unintentionally, over time. But anyway, it's a tough thing, you know, because you know, this is even without getting political about it at all. And obviously there's political, like, undertones to this type of discussion, but, you know, I feel like everybody's kind of, like, angrier in 2019 than they are in 2016. I feel like, at least based on social media, like, in 2016, we thought, well, in 2014, I thought that people were, like, cheesed off all the time, and now I'm like, dude, I had no idea. Back then, people were still posting photos of what they were having for lunch. Hold on. I got a real... I'm going for a big swing. This is a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. right here. Okay, I've already told you I do not want the world card. I've already told you I do not want the Ace of Clubs. I haven't told you on this run. I just mean in general, I never want to see that card again. We're not going to get too dicey here, but we're going to get a little diced up. I don't really care for any of these items, which is why I'm trying to leverage my HP to maybe get something worth either picking up or doubling. But I'm not going to go too much further than this, I promise you that. Okay. None of this is that good, so I appreciated the doubling attempt. So we will take Brother Bobby. We will take Speedball. We'll take a second Speedball. We will take the missing page 2. And I think I will take the other missing page too. That shows you exactly how much I value Brother Bobby. But in doing so, we did see the item room on this floor is the poop. In doing so, now we still have a deal with the Devil Chance, which I think is important. Like, I don't think, even if, you know, what's happening in politics of your country, and it varies, I guess, country to country, but even if you're like, you know, that's what I'm rooting for, I feel like whenever I see people like that on Twitter, they're still angry, like, all the time. But instead of being angry at, you know, power, they're angry at the people who are angry at power, and it's just like a whole angry cycle. It's, you know, it's not fair to say, like, just don't be mad. Again, I'm not trying to say that. I think you have to be very careful, you know, and the way you talk about this stuff, because, you know, oh, just some things are good, some things are bad. Okay, I get it, Cartman. No, but what I'm saying is, like, actionable feedback, I think, for people who, you know, get sucked into kind of like the social media negativity spiral. It's hard, though. It's something that comes up all the time. I think it happens to everybody on the internet, to be honest, just because, I mean, I've been working on this theory, this hypothesis, for a long time, but never putting it down on paper because I'm not an academic. Plus, it seems like a lot of work when I could just be playing video games for entertainment instead. But I'm telling you, it used to be sex sells. You know? It used to be, well, like I was watching A League of Their Own last night. You know, the classic Gina Davis, Lori Petty movie about the women's baseball league during the Second World War. Tom Hanks. There's no crying in baseball. And, you know, at the start of the movie, they have all the women wearing these skimpy uniforms because they think that the dudes will only watch women play baseball if they're also, you know, dolled up. You know, it's kind of like the modern equivalent is like those lingerie football leagues, which I can't even imagine the type of clientele that goes to see that on the regular. No offense meant to the athletes in question, I mean that sincerely. Just more like, hey kids, load up the caddy, we're going to the Lingerie Football League. I got season tickets to see the Victoria Vixens. Anyway, I'm just there for the love of the game, okay? It's really high quality football. But I don't think it's sex sells anymore. I think it's anger sells, dude. And it's so easy to become a part of it, you know? There was that New York Post article this week that went viral. It was the guy saying, sorry millennials, but it is weird to go to Disneyland if you don't have kids. And then like tens or hundreds of thousands of replies that basically said, shut up, boomer. And by the way, those replies are right. And I don't believe in the adage that any press is good press. I think bad press is very bad. Oh, let me put it this way. I think there's good bad press and bad press. What is good bad press? I don't know. Sometimes if you have like two rappers having a feud together, that's good bad press. If it generates publicity. That can turn into, you know, sales, basically. What's bad press? I don't know, just about everybody who got Me Too'd would probably say that there's bad press, is my guess. Hold on, I do not have a bomb. We don't care about this, Virgo. We don't care about that. We don't really care about that. We definitely do not need that. I would take Tractor Beam. I don't think we need to go for the doubling, and that's a shrewd decision, because we were at the tier cap anyway. Mind you, one of these might destroy the tier cap for us, but whatever, it's not a big deal. Still don't have any bombs. Run's still good, by the way. Could use an actual damage upgrade, but otherwise still good. Hold on, let me caffeinate. We're getting into some spicy topics. But, like, I do sort of feel like, you know... Not that you're playing into the author's hand, but there's a, you know, it's the rage click toxicity that I actually feel is like, you know, is undermining any potential goodness of social media were it to exist in the first place. Yeah, I'll keep Algis. Maybe we should have tried to double and then we could take one with us, but not a big deal. You know, I think, like, if you're wondering about my opinion on whether or not you should go to Disneyland as a childless adult, first, I'm gonna tell you my opinion first, and then I'm gonna make you feel bad. So my opinion is, of course you should go to Disneyland if you want to go, and you're a childless adult. Disneyland is not a park for children, it's an amusement park, you know? If you enjoy going to Disneyland, go to Disneyland. I don't care if you're 5, 15, 100, you know, who cares? It's a business. It's like, you know, short of like legal things, like, hey, if you're 8 years old, you probably shouldn't be allowed to, you know, be in a bar at 1 a.m. I don't really care, like, what you do in this context. Of course, don't let this weird, you know, 65-year-old, you know, grumpy Ebenezer Scrooge sort of, you know, clickbait journalist make you feel bad. But secondarily, you're like, okay, now he's gonna make me feel bad. What is he gonna say? Oh, I wouldn't do it? What's he gonna say? Oh, I do think it's a little juvenile to go to Disney World? No, what I'm gonna say is, if you're an adult, you shouldn't be worried about anybody's opinion about going to Disneyland. Just go to Disneyland. You know, like, it's not that easy. I understand, but and mostly, like, I'll admit, I felt compelled to reply. I didn't because I've gotten so much smarter over the past few years that I just don't tweet at all. However, well, I don't tweet much. I still tweet about F1 on occasion, and of course to advertise my own streams. But you shouldn't care. You know, that's part of the beauty of being an adult. And I mean that sincerely. Your behavior may sometimes get called into question. You know, like, it's pretty much my bread and butter. You know, if I see a dude sniffing oranges for 45 minutes at the Whole Foods, I will bring it up in an episode and be like, hey, I was at the Whole Foods the other day and I saw a dude sniffing oranges for 45 minutes. Now, what's the difference here? Maybe there isn't. Maybe there isn't a difference. However, I don't want that dude to stop sniffing oranges. I just want to know his methodology. You know, his behavior is a little bit out of the norm. But part of the deal is, you know, as an adult, you have more responsibilities. You know, your tax revenue is responsible. We definitely just want that for keeping your country going. And, you know, you have a certain... Let's go check out this boss trap room real quick. You have a certain responsibility, if that makes sense. Adults are held to a higher standard of behavior, or should be, than children. If a child's out in public and he, you know, yells and runs around, you're like, it's a kid. You know, it's part of the deal. If an adult's out in public running around, you're like, okay, he's drunk. He shouldn't be... An adult doing that with a sober and sound mind is unbecoming of the dignity of the office of adulthood, is what I'm trying to say. But that's the caveat there, not the caveat, but the benefit of the cost you have for being, you know, part of the engine that keeps your society running, is that you also get to do whatever you want within the bounds of legality, and you don't have to worry about anybody, you know, telling you what is and what isn't okay. You know, you shouldn't be doing disruptive stuff that hurts other people whenever possible. Sometimes it's probably impossible to act without hurting others. But, you know, you should not just take joy in being a piece of garbage to other people, of course. But apart from that, you want to go to Disneyland? Sure, what do I care? You and your significant other want to buy tickets to the 12 p.m. Saturday showing of Toy Story 4? That's business, baby. You know, kids don't get a monopoly on doing stuff that's fun for all ages just because of the fact that they're kids. You can go. Plus, I'm sure the Disney Corporation, when they saw this stuff, was like, oh my god. Please don't write any more articles like that. We just want your money. We don't care if it's a parent buying the merchandise or, you know, two 28-year-olds who just happen to really love Frozen. Who cares, right? That's where I'm at on this. Yeah, if you're, and it takes a while for people to get there. You know, I'm not there yet. But if you're a young adult and you're still, you know, reckoning with the fact, why not? That you're a young adult, embrace it, you know? Being an adult, it doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. You have a lot of things that you more or less have to do, you know, in order to not go to jail, basically. You have an obligation and a series of responsibilities. Not an Excel floor. In order to maintain your status as a law-abiding citizen. Moreover, you're kind of, and, you know, you might take issue with this, but adults carry kind of like a series of implicit responsibilities that are not actually explicitly stated, but, you know, if you're in a crisis situation in public, you know, you kind of have, people will have the expectation, crap, that you as an adult will actively seek to help out other people and, you know, put people that are in a more vulnerable state above yourself and so on and so forth. It's a bad deal. Mind you, we all benefited from it probably to some extent when we were kids. But the benefit is, you go to Disneyland, who cares? That's part of the deal of being an adult, you know, like, that's part of the reason I don't take, I've stopped taking as much crap regarding, like, my, you know, what I do in my leisure time from Twitch chat. Because I'm like, dude, I've been an adult for almost, like, half of my life now. I'm not going to say I got it figured out, like, oh, I got the secret to happiness. But I know what I like. So when I'm like, I saw a movie this weekend, and then like 100 people are like, that was the wrong movie to see. You should have seen this movie. Oh, he has time to go see a movie that's only a 6 out of 10, but he hasn't seen The Shawshank Redemption yet, which I have, by the way, but the meme persists nonetheless. Oh, well, Mr. Moneybags paid for the D-Box seat to go see this movie. You know, there's some people are starving in other parts of the world. Oh, this is, you know, not necessarily wrong, and I understand it's filtered through the lens of humor. The problem is, a lot of those people aren't as funny as I am. And thus I take offense to the fact that they're trying to tell a joke. If you're gonna tell a joke at my expense, you gotta make me laugh. You gotta hit me with a mouth, you know? Mouth has some absolutely withering comments about me, and I love it, because he cuts me to the core every time. You gotta try harder is all I'm saying. But that's, you know, I'm like, first off, Twitch chat, you're here because you like me, so I understand I'm not gonna take too much offense to it. But also, secondarily, you can make fun of me if you want, but I know what I like. You know, it's part and parcel with, you know, coming to terms with yourself as you get older. You know, I like the quiet life. Walk around, play some Pokemon Go. Talk about how criminally underseen Midsommar is. Dude, I don't know. I think we have to abandon Crooked Penny, and I don't want to because it's been actually pretty. Man, I really need some damage, but I'll do it. It's been pretty solid for us, but I think that we need a little bit more insurance on this run, to be honest. So you want to go to Disneyland? Of course go to Disneyland, but moreover, please do not do not put any stock in what a reporter for the New York Post says about going to freaking Disneyland. Who cares? You know those people like, you can just get a job? I don't mean this to be rude. I'm not besmirching the name of real journalism, but you know, should millennials go to Disneyland is not, in my opinion, legitimate journalism. You know, it's an opinion column, and basically anyone can write those. You don't have to pass some kind of cultural litmus test to be like, oh, you are the arbiter of what's good and what's just in the world. You can just like, you could write the New York Post with an opinion article, and they might publish it, you know? That's the... They're just... I mean, I think that's also part of the beauty of being an adult, is recognizing that all adults are as stupid as you are. Which is not technically true. Some adults are smarter than you are, but a lot of adults are also stupider than you are. Which, it really has a huge impact. Oh, thank you, demons. I'm not live yet, but I appreciate it. It really has a very positive impact on your confidence, I think. Because when you're a kid, you know, adults have this mystique about them for a while. You're like, oh, you're an adult. You passed adult school. You got your adult license. Adults always know what's going on. And then, you know, it's a very common sentiment online is like adulthood is, you know, just realizing slowly. It's just figuring everything out as you go, day after day until you die. Like, you don't really... Nobody... As a kid, we maybe think that adults have some kind of special knowledge that makes them, you know, more confident. What they have is just experience, and then, of course, they're the ones in charge, so they have to figure it out. But also, you know, as a kid, you might read an article. And I want to be clear, it's the New York Post. It's not the New York Times, it's the New York Post. It's like the difference between... I'm trying to think of a good example here. And nothing is coming to mind. But the New York Post is like, extra, extra, botched boob job. New York Times is like, hey, we spent 9 months researching, you know, this investigative journalism story. So you got to keep that in mind to begin with. Not to say the New York Times doesn't have its share of head scratchers anyway. But, you know, as a kid, you might be like, oh my god, a real adult big boy newspaper says it's not okay to go to Disneyland unless you have a kid? Maybe it's true. As an adult, you're like, what are you talking about, you weird man? We're supposed to be, you know, we're peers now. It's not, nobody's operating from a position of assumed intellectual superiority. I'm here to tell you that take is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, you know, at least in the past year. Sorry, childless millennials, it is weird to go to Disneyland without a kid. I also saw, and again, this is... I'm not trying to advocate for a laissez-faire approach to activism, you know? But I don't necessarily consider this activism. I consider this dunking on somebody for having one of the worst opinions about something relatively trivial. But I saw people interfacing with the writer on a level of decorum that was not called for, you know? They were saying things like, actually, a lot of millennials prefer to not have children in today's day and age because of the way that, you know, wage stagnation and rising property costs and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And listen, I know that you're well-meaning, but let me stop you right there. This dude does not care at all about anything that you just said. And moreover, like, it's an article about Disneyland, not an article about why millennials are having less kids. I get you got a chip on your shoulder, and you're arguing from a position that I think is good faith, but simultaneously you got to recognize this guy's just he's a troll. And as soon as you acknowledge the troll, I don't think the troll wins, to be honest. I think that this guy might genuinely have had a bad weekend. People always, you know, even trolls are human beings, you know? They might say something trolly to get attention, and then when they get that attention, if it's negative, and there's enough of it, be like, oh, ouch. I mean, I did it to myself, but you get the idea. I think it's possible that that dude might have had a bad weekend, but simultaneously, like, come on. Don't feed the troll. Anyway. Where was I going? We've been talking about millennials going to Disneyland for 25 minutes. I'm just here to tell you, don't ever support those outlets. It's just that easy. Just don't click on the article, you know? I know you're only giving them a fraction of a cent, but it is what they want. You don't have to read, and this ties back in. We've had a series of Isaac episodes now, by the way, where we pretty much talked about one topic for the whole episode, which is unusual for me, but you know, I'm letting it ride as long as we have to / can. I don't do the commentary in Isaac. I'm just a conduit for words to flow through. You know, idea pops into head, and then I apply the my opinion filter, and then it just comes out. That's basically what I do. I'm like an oracle in ancient Greece, you know? Julius Caesar, wait. King Leonidas shows up, and he's like, how are we gonna fare in the Peloponnesian War? And I go, you know, the Peloponnesian War, that's an interesting one. You know, you ever hear the expression, King Leonidas of Pyrrhic victory? You know what? I'll tell you what's a Pyrrhic victory. You know, the Columbus Blue Jackets winning the Matt Duchene trade, but then simultaneously losing him in free agency for nothing. King Leonidas has already left. He's already drawn a drop of blood from Xerxes. Anyway. You know, there's an infinite well of rage now. And a lot of, I mean, almost all modern blogs, kind of, that's their currency. Is posted, no longer, and I don't know, maybe it's always been like this and I'm naive. You know, I've only very semi-recently become an adult who watches the news, you know, for any reason except my parents having the television remote. Maybe it's always been like this. But let me put it this way. When I grew up, when I was a teenager, the news was there to scare you. Now it's designed to make you angry. They're both bad, I think. Dude, I'm begging you. On this floor. 100% deal with the devil chance. Just a single damage upgrade, please. You know, I really do feel like internet media is designed to anger you. If it angers you, you know, it feels like it's done its job. Which is why, you know, I don't know, we end up talking about this enough that I do feel like I get a little preachy about it, and people are like, you know, shut up, you've been talking about this so long. But I really have been making an effort to be more positive and less, not reactionary, because I don't think I've ever been reactionary. I've always kind of had that air of, you know, enlightened centrism ever since I was a little baby infant. And I was like, actually, mother, all foods can make you fat. It just depends on the mass you eat of them. But I really feel like, in particular, when it happens, like, in politics, like, things with, like, real impacts on humans' lives, I completely get it, even if it doesn't necessarily resonate with me. I'm like, I understand. This is, like, very important stuff. is people's lives. It's their rights and responsibilities. It's their place in, you know, the society in which they exist. When it happens about video games, so frequently, I'm like, I love video games. I want this to be clear. You might think that the fact that I'm not angry about them means I love them less. I would almost argue the opposite. But, you know, I play games all the time. Not just for work, but off camera as well. When people are angry about them and just assume the worst about absolutely every news story that comes out about games, I'm like, brother, these are toys. It's so weird to me. And I'm not putting this on the mantle of gamers, you know? I think that, you know, gamers as a group, you know, whether they're a self-described gamer or otherwise, you know, they're also shaped by the media of their industry, you know? And definitely, I think games have been inundated with probably more snark than, like, you know, the action figure industry. Nobody's like, oh, check it out, Funko released another Hulkbuster. Whoo, whoo. You know, with movies, like, there's a little cynicism, for sure. But I don't think it's on nearly the same degree. Now, mind you, to be fair, there's nothing that's happening in movies that's like, you know, hey, you buy the movie for $60, and then also if you want to see extra scenes, they're 99 cents each in loot boxes that you can buy from the iTunes database. By the way, I'm 100 years old. Apparently, I still think that iTunes exists. My mistake. But, and you know, that's part of the problem, is that there's enough stuff to be negative about that even if it's 1% of what people are actually negative about, they can always point to that as like, see? How naive are you to think that? It's like my least favorite argument. I don't have evidence that thing is happening, but how naive are you to believe that it isn't? Anyway, we've been down this road so recently, I don't even want to get into it again, but we're already here. I will take these 2 bombs and move on. I'll tell you, this run is a candidate right now for, like, the best, the worst best run we've had in a while. And that's not negative. It's actually positive. That's why I said worst best instead of best worst. This is not a bad good, or this is not a good bad run. This is a bad good run. Which is to say that the run is good, but it's also very slow. And the reason it's slow is because it's lacking in one specific department. Namely, the D part of DPS. Oh! The PS part is totally fine. The D part is a little lacking right now. Definitely should pick that up, but anyway. That's why, you know, and it gets a little bit ego-driven or sycophantic, I guess, but, like, you know, I appreciate you watching these videos. If you're still watching, Isaac, you know, you don't have to agree with me on every subject, but I appreciate that you've demonstrated you enjoy listening to me talk. That's affirming, you know, when there's a lot of YouTube channels out there that basically exist exclusively to fuel rage. You know, and that, like, there are a lot of them. Twitch, less so. And I say that every time, I think, but, you know, Twitch is kind of like more in the moment. I do think there's, you know, potentially ignorant, harmful attitudes sometimes that streamers, probably myself included, espouse about the industry. And I think that's, you know, kind of understandable. Not to mean that it's permitted or forgiven, but, like, I do think it's kind of understandable when, like, a portion of Twitch is basically, like, people under the age of 25 who are millionaires because they're good at playing a video game. It's not to be rude, you know, it's more just like, I can understand. I think if you took just about any, like, 18-year-old and gave them, you know, like, a few $100,000 or $1 million for being good at a video game, you would run the risk of creating somebody, not necessarily as a bad person, but somebody who's, you know, doesn't necessarily have the most grounded of opinions. And that's, you know, their own personal journey to work through after that. Let's get Empty Vessel and Permanent Polaroid Invincibility working here. We should be able to make this happen. And honestly, that's why I appreciate my colleagues. You know, we exist in a different space on YouTube and Twitch. I like what we're doing, and I appreciate that we have a community that is also into what we're doing, even if it is, or maybe because it is, a little bit atypical on the Twitch and YouTube landscape, you know? Honestly, is too easy to say, and people always do this, and it makes me so, like, just shake my head. It doesn't make me angry, but they're like, well, I could have 5 million subscribers on YouTube, but I don't want to play Fortnite. It's not that easy, brother. You know, we played Fortnite. We played it because we liked it, and nobody involved with the show is at 5 million subscribers, at least not yet. It's the same. People are like, you know, wouldn't it be easier to just, you know, instead of making a few videos, pardon me, it probably just lost about 100 subscribers via that burp. Wouldn't it be easier instead of making, you know, 4 or 5 videos a day some days? You know, just make one video that, you know, is a little, maybe a little clickbaity, you know, chases trends a little bit. And the answer is, I don't know. You know, would it be easier? Would it be harder? I think it's harder than people give it credit for. I think if you were being one of those YouTubers who's like constantly chasing trends and you know, making very timely quote unquote pseudo news content to stoke the fires, you know, I'm unsympathetic, but I do think that is probably a pretty tough job, you know. You got to be doing that legwork every single day. I probably put in more, you know, raw on camera hours, but you know, the difference is moot because, you know, this is what I like to do, and I feel like I'm blessed to be able to do it for so many people and to have it be sustainable, at least for now. I mean, you know, medium-term stability, nobody knows on YouTube, right? The whole website could get shut down next week. I would hope not, but you never know. So Tractor Beam plus Tiny Planet, normally good. Here, just happens to exist, but that's okay. I mean, the run is pretty solid. You know, Deadeye's helping us out. I'm feeling good about it. We should definitely pretty comfortably cruise to a win here. I will say, by the way, I've kind of been spinning my wheels on this one. The main, in terms of commentary, the main thing I wanted to get across is, if you want to go to Disneyland, go to Disneyland. You know, if you want to, I'm trying to think of other things that would, like, people would find strange for, like, a childless couple to do. I don't know. Basically, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you start going to Chuck E. Cheese and, like, yelling at the staff because they won't let you into the ball pit, you might start to lose some favor, but, you know, apart from that, by all means, go to Legoland, dude. See if I care. I think it's, you know, it's not for anybody else to, I mean, judging's free, but it's not for anybody else to discourage or encourage. And also, like, comment, subscribe. Those are the 2 big ones. I didn't even talk about what I did on my weekend in this episode, which is very rare for a Sunday episode 1 sort of situation. I really appreciate that, Eden's blessing. Not for this run, but for the runs that come after it. But, you know, I mean, I can hit you with it in the last 90 seconds of this run because it's just that easy. What did I do this weekend? I cooked a slammin' beef stew, you know? Or this Saturday, I should say, because, you know, it's Sunday morning right now. I cooked a slammin' beef stew. Let me tell you, if you can't cook and you're looking to learn how to cook, don't take inspiration from Queer Eye. And I like all the guys involved. I understand that it's a show for entertainment's sake, but sometimes they have these people that are like, I make sandwiches every single day for lunch and dinner. And then Anthony is like, okay, we're going to teach you how to make like a saffron-infused paella. And I'm like, that's a great idea. But also, behind the scenes, teach this guy how to make a soup. I'll tell you, I've been cooking soups and stews for... I had to look at the calendar to see what year it was. For like 12 years, it has never come out as less than an 8 out of 10. What's the recipe? The recipe is so simple. It's the easiest thing in the world. Literally just get carrots, onions, celery, dice them up, toss them in a stewing pot, or, you know, like not a saucepan, but a big, I forget the name of them. The name is escaping me. I think it's called a soup pot. And then, you know, when it smells good, toss in some cubed beef, throw in like a little pinch of every single spice and seasoning in your cupboard. Toss in like a bouillon cube, and then enough water to cover up the dry ingredients. Toss in some potatoes, you're good to go. That's it. It comes out 10 out of 10 every single time. Now, people are going to listen to this. They're going to be like, well, what about the bay leaf? Oh, do you sear the beef first to get the Maillard reaction? Oh, do you, shouldn't you mix water and cornstarch to make a slurry to thicken it? It doesn't matter. You can, of course. Does it make it better? Maybe. It's going to come out as an 8 out of 10 no matter what. It's one of... Mother Nature gave us the recipe. The recipe was carrots, onions, celery, meat, water, and then time plus heat. That's all you need. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. See ya!